Yo, what is going on, guys? And welcome back to 365 Analytics. And it is Monday. We are back today. It is NFL Combine Week, and we are here today predicting every NFL Week 1 starting quarterback for the 2025 NFL season. And it's an annual tradition now. I did this video last year around this time, probably a few days earlier into February. But here we are now doing this video again. And last year I totally missed. I was pretty bad, to be honest with you. Um, I just did not have a good a good job predicting where the quarterbacks would land. But we're doing it again this year, and hopefully you can do a little bit better this year and try to get the groove and all of that and some stuff right. Before we get into it, if you guys enjoy, please like, subscribe. That would all be greatly appreciated. We're trying to grow the channel. We're trying to do a little better. So, yeah, that would all be greatly appreciated. But let's get right into it. And yeah, let's start off. Obviously, I'm gonna go pretty quickly through the easy ones to try not to drag out this video totally. Easy. Josh Allen, Buffalo Bill starter. He's the starting quarterback. Not a question there. Miami Dolphins, pretty much the same thing. Tua got a fresh extension last offseason. He's the Miami Dolphins starting quarterback, and he is their franchise guy. Not much else to say there. This, this is where it gets spicy, and this might be one of the spiciest quarterback venues in the league at this point because here's the first intriguing one. I have Cam Ward, the quarterback of the Miami Hurricanes, landing in East Rutherford, New Jersey, to play for the New York Jets. Here's how I think it plays out. My prediction here is the Jets obviously pick at number 7 right now. I think the Jets pull something off, maybe with the Tennessee Titans potentially, to trade up to that number 1 overall pick and pick their quarterback of the future. I think new head coach Aaron Glenn wants to bring in new blood to that quarterback room and go away from the so-called proven guy and just get new blood to take over the New York Jets organization and hopefully bring them to the land of glory. So, yeah, pretty spicy. I think Cam Ward ends up in New Jersey. Next up, obviously, New England Patriots. Drake May's their quarterback. Not really a question about that. Third overall pick last draft. Baltimore Ravens, same thing here. Lamar Jackson, no questions asked. My opinion should have been the reigning MVP. They gave to Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the league, no questions there. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers. This is an interesting one as well. They have two free agent quarterbacks this offseason, one being Russell Wilson, last year's starter, two being Justin Fields, who is pictured right here. I am predicting that they do re sign Justin Fields, and he is the Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback of the future. Did start a few games last year to start the season. Russell Wilson did have the calf injury right before the week 1 game. Started some games to start the season for the Steelers. Wasn't half bad, wasn't great. He wasn't exceptional. I have never been a believer in Justin Fields. If I was doing this channel for as long as when the Bears drafted him in 2021, I was never a believer in Justin Fields. Coming out of the draft from Ohio State, I thought he was a little bit of an overrated prospect, and then the Chicago Bears drafted him, which made it even worse. The Chicago Bears are obviously QB hell, so I was never a believer, but I think the Pittsburgh Steelers bring him back for a one year prove it deal kind of thing, and he's their starter next year. So that's where I think the Steelers go. Then you go to the Bengals, obviously. Joe Burrow, he's their quarterback, no questions asked. And then it's the Cleveland Browns, and this is where I have Kirk Cousins ending up. There's been rumors, there's been so called, I guess, buzz. There's been like people talking about Kirk Cousins potentially being the next Browns quarterback. Deshaun Watson, obviously, we know him. He had the injury last year. He hasn't been very good. He's been a total bust for the Cleveland Browns. They obviously gave him a $230 million fully guaranteed contract. Has not played to the standard. Obviously had the legal problems off the field, and then he hasn't been good on the field. He sustained injuries, and it's looking like Deshaun Watson won't be ready next year, and he won't be able to play in the 2025 season. Hence, the Browns pivot. And I think they go to Kirk Cousins, the guy who was benched for Michael Penix Jr. towards the end of the year for the Atlanta Falcons last year. The Falcons are expected to release him this coming March before free agency starts, and he's expected to become a free agent. So that is where I think the Cleveland Browns go. Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, he's their quarterback, no questions asked. This could be interesting. A lot of people are saying that Indianapolis could potentially move off of Anthony Richardson. I don't think they do. I think this is basically a prove it year for Anthony Richardson coming up now. It's do or die for him, and he has to prove to Chris Ballard and Shane Steichen that he is the guy of the future for the Indianapolis Colts. Shane Steichen potentially also entering the year on the hot seat. So if these guys don't perform, the Colts could be bringing a new resume. Chris Ballard did say about a week or so back that the Colts are expected to bring in some competition for Anthony Richardson. Whether that bring back Gardner Minshew, he's expected to be released from the Raiders potentially. Um, who knows? They could bring in competition for Anthony Richardson, but I still think he's their week one starter next year and a prove it year for him. Jacksonville Jaguars, obviously, Trevor Lawrence, no questions asked. Had the injury last year. He's their franchise guy. Then you go to the Tennessee Titans, who possess the number one overall pick in their name. There's a lot of different directions this franchise could go. One side you look at it, do they stick with Will Levis? They could stick with Will Levis for next year, the second round pick a few years ago out of Kentucky, and then use that number one overall pick to go get a guy like Abdul Carter, in my opinion, the best player in the entire draft. Or you could stick and pick. You could pick Shador Sanders. You could pick Cam Ward. And then there's a third option, which is go get a guy like Sam Darnold, who just had a damn good year in Minnesota, and it's probably going to get $40 million a year, if I had to guess. At it, in today's quarterback market, I wouldn't put it past him. He's probably going to get $40 million a year. And then you trade a number one overall pick and trade down a few spots to a team like the Jets, like I just talked about, who could move up and then pick Cam Ward. A lot of different directions the Tennessee Titans could go, but my prediction is they go get Sam Darnold and he, with Brian Callahan, try to form that new regimen in Tennessee, and I think that's where the Titans go with it. Kansas City Chiefs have Carson Wentz their starter next year. Not really a question here. No competition for him in that QB room. Obviously, coming off the Super Bowl loss, pretty tragic. I'm just kidding. Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs starter, obviously. No questions asked. Los Angeles Chargers, Justin Herbert. No questions there either. He's their franchise quarterback. Denver Broncos, Bo Nix, obviously the rookie last year. 24-year-old rookie last year. Him and Sean Payton did some great things. Broncos snuck into the playoffs. Got bounced by Buffalo in the first round, but they had a very, very good season, overachieved. The defense is very good. Bo Nix will be Denver's guy for years to come. And then, another pretty spicy one we got here. Russell Wilson is my prediction for the Las Vegas Raiders job. Obviously, new Raiders head coach. Who is it? Pete Carroll. Who was Pete Carroll's quarterback for the years he coached in Seattle? Russell Wilson. There was talks about how the bridge might have been burned after the 2020 season, or the 2020 was it 2020 season? Was that the season that him and Pete Carroll got into the him and Pete Carroll? There was some talks about potentially some beef, potentially like ties cut, where these two guys don't like each other anymore after all the good years they had. I'm not really buying that. I think Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson are a good connection. I think that they could reunite here. New GM John Spytek from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and new resume Pete Carroll. I think that they bring in Russell Wilson, kind of a bridge quarterback, maybe draft a guy next year, see where they go. But I think Russell Wilson's their week one guy this year. Eagles, defending Super Bowl champions, Jalen Hurts is their quarterback, obviously. Washington Commanders, the rookie phenom last year, offensive rookie of the year. Jaden Daniels is their quarterback. Cowboys is Dak Prescott, your highest paid player in the National Football League, $60 million a year for him. They got the extension done right before week one started and had a pretty up and down year. Honestly, Dallas wasn't very good when he was in the lineup, but then he got hurt, and then Dallas just fell off a cliff. It wasn't a great year for the Cowboys. Who knows? Let's see if they can bounce back. Next up, New York Giants. And this is where I think Shador Sanders ends up. There's been so many hints. This is the time of year where it's a bunch of smoke screens go around and a bunch of fake rumors, a bunch of real rumors leaked by general managers and executives around the league. I think Shador Sanders is a New York Giant. I think Brian Daboll really likes him. He is not planning to throw out the combine this weekend, but he is going to throw out Colorado's pro day with his receivers, and I think that New York really likes him. I think they're going to go get him, and I think it should be interesting. Lions, Jared Goff's their quarterback. Had a bad end to the year with the playoff game, but he's a franchise guy. Minnesota Vikings. Sam Darnold was their quarterback last year. We all know it. Had a pretty good year. I do not think the Vikings bring back Sam Darnold. He is not expected to be franchise tagged. And I think they moved to first round rookie last year. JJ McCarthy had the torn meniscus, I believe it was, to put an end to his rookie year before it even started. I think this is where Kevin O'Connell and the Vikings lean to move, and I think it's McCarthy's team. Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love, no questions asked. Chicago Bears, Caleb Williams, number one overall pick last year, obviously had an up and down rookie year. His offensive line was not very good, but he showed some flashes. Obviously, very, very athletic player and good player. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, obviously came over on a prove it deal, and he has done more than prove it. Become the franchise quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Atlanta Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. He's their guy now. Started the last final few games of the season. Looked pretty good. The lefty quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons looked pretty good. And he's obviously their guy. Raheem Morris and Michael Penix are gonna look to do big things in Atlanta. So yeah. Carolina Panthers, Bryce Young, his story. I am rooting for Bryce Young so much. I cannot say enough about Bryce Young. I'm a big fan of his. I am really rooting for him. We all know it. He was benched early into last season. Andy Dalton took over for a few weeks, played much better than him, but then Andy Dalton got into a car accident, I believe. Bryce Young took back over, and he did not look back. Bryce Young looked like a new and improved Bryce Young. He looked like a totally different player. He was making plays. He was making winning football plays. And he had the Carolina Panthers competitive in games. They were competitive with the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at one point during the year. So I am really rooting for him, and I think that he's going to become the Carolina Panthers franchise guy. New Orleans Saints, a lot of people talking about this being a QB destination where they could potentially move off Derek Carr. Kellen Moore, in his introductory press conference, talked very highly of Derek Carr. I think they should move off of Derek Carr, if you ask me. I am not a big fan of Derek Carr at this point in his career. I think that you cannot win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr. And I don't even think it's worth starting him. But I think Kellen Moore and the Saints really like him, and I think they're going to stick with him for at least this season. Rams. This is one. This is one that a lot of people are talking about lately. It was reported a few days ago that the Rams gave permission to Matthew Stafford to seek his value, so to speak, not a trade request, seek his value around the league on a contract so the Rams can work something out or he can get traded to another team. There's a lot of smoke about a trade, potentially to the New York Giants, people are talking about, potentially to the Las Vegas Raiders, people are talking about. There's a lot of destinations for Matthew Stafford right now. I do not think the Rams move on from him. I think he maybe pokes around the league, takes a look at his value, and him and the Rams eventually become, or they find an agreement on a contract, and he plays one or two more seasons there. There should be no reason the Rams should move off of Matthew Stafford. I still think they can win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, in my opinion. Obviously, we saw it a few years ago in 2021. They did win a Super Bowl with Matthew Stafford, and I think he's still their quarterback next year. Seattle Seahawks, Geno Smith, Mike McDonald really likes him. I don't think he should be their quarterback next year. I think Seattle should move on from him. Go get a fresh guy in that room, if you ask me. But Seattle's gonna move forward with him, if you ask me. And yeah, I don't see them moving off of him. Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray. Not really a question here, but let me say something real quick. Why is there not more of a spotlight on Kyler Murray? Why is there not more of a spotlight on him? He was the number one overall pick how many years ago now? 6 calendar years ago in the 2019 NFL draft. He was in 2 months, he would be a number one overall pick 6 years ago. Six. The Arizona Cardinals, I believe, have only made the playoffs once with him at quarterback. the year they started 8-0 and then absolutely collapsed, lost to the Rams in the wild card round. That was his MVP caliber season. They had an 8-0 start. He was in MVP talks. Pretty much fell off a cliff. Why is he not getting talked about more in like a do or die scenario for him? I'm not saying I think he's a bad quarterback. I think highly of Kyler Murray. I think he can play, but I think there should be more spotlight on him and more like pressure on him going to the season because what has he proven realistically? Just a thought. And then to end it off, Brock Purdy is the quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. Obviously, Mr. Irrelevant a few years ago. Great story. Kyle Shanahan likes him. And I think the 49ers are going to be back in contention next year. And he is the quarterback to do it with. And he's due for an extension. Probably get paid a lot of money, upwards of $50 million a year. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's going to do it. Those are my predictions for the 32 NFL starting week one quarterbacks next year for the 2025 season. If you guys did enjoy this video, please like, subscribe. That would all be greatly appreciated. Wednesday I'll be back. I will have my pre-combine NFL 32 team mock draft. Combine officially starts on Thursday. I'm gonna post the video on Wednesday. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great night.